dramatic developments. Joining us now, the Vermont Independent Senator, Bernie Sanders. Senator, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Let me get your reaction. The president is about to hold a victory celebration over at the White House with the Republican leadership. This is a huge win for him, right?
Well, it is a victory for billionaires like Donald Trump. It's a victory for wealthy campaign contributors like the Koch brothers. But this is a disaster for the American people. According to the Tax Policy Center, at the end of 10 years, Wolf, 83% of the tax benefits go to the top 1%, 60% of the benefits go to the top 0.1%. This whole policy is based on the fraudulent theory of trickle-down economics. And that is, if you give huge tax breaks to large corporations and the wealthy, somehow the middle class and working families benefit. Problem is, that theory has never worked. It didn't work under Reagan. It didn't work under George W. Bush. Certainly didn't work recently in the state of Kansas. This is a payback for wealthy campaign contributors, and I think the Republicans will rue the day. And they may be celebrating today, but I have the feeling that next November they will not be celebrating quite as much.
Is there anything, Senator, in the bill you support?
Sure, there are proposals that help the middle class, but they expire at the end of 8 years. What Republican priorities were about is giving permanent tax breaks to large corporations. Some of them will get tens of billions of dollars in tax breaks, but the benefits for the middle class were made temporary. Furthermore, and this is really important, listen to what Speaker of the House Paul Ryan is saying literally today, this morning. This is what he is saying. He is saying that, in so many words, this bill drives up the deficit by $1.5 trillion. Remember, the Republicans used to hate large deficits. This drives up the deficit by $1.5 trillion. How are they going to offset that? Listen to what Ryan says today. What he is saying is they're going to come back very shortly with entitlement reform. Please, America, understand what he means by entitlement reform. Those are cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. Remember, during the campaign, candidate Donald Trump said, oh, if I'm elected president, there'll be no cuts to Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. That is exactly what Ryan has in mind, and I challenge the president. Maybe for once in his life, keep the promises that you made. Tell Ryan and Mitch McConnell that you will veto any legislation that cuts Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. It is obscene to give tax breaks to billionaires and then cut these programs that are life and death for the middle class of this country.
And the president, as a candidate, did repeatedly say no cuts to these entitlement programs, Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. He often said that. We know that the speaker has a very different perspective on those entitlement programs. A lot of conservative Republicans do as well. The speaker was also on TV this morning, and he also said this. Listen to Paul Ryan, Senator.
The tax rate before this bill passes is 35%. That's the highest in the industrialized world. The rest of our competitors tax their companies at about 22.5%. Canada is 15%. Ireland's 12.5%. England's 17%. China's no higher than 25%. So when we tax American businesses at much, much higher tax rates than our foreign competitors are taxing theirs, we're losing and they're gaining. And what's more important, American businesses are moving overseas. They're not even American companies anymore. This is a trend that has to be reversed.
All right, so you heard the speaker. The corporate tax rate is going to go from 35% down to 21%, and that will give these corporations a lot more potential to go out there and create jobs, get higher wages for the working class, for all the union workers out there and others as well. That's something you support, right?
In theory, I do. Unfortunately, what Ryan said is grossly misleading. What he said is the tax rate is 35%. Wolf, that is the nominal tax rate. The vast majority of corporations do not pay 35%. They keep saying this over and over again. The fact is that the real effective tax rate, because of all the loopholes that now exist, is somewhere around 16 to 18%, not 35%. In fact, 1 out of 5 major American corporations making huge profits pay zero in federal taxes in recent years. So what Ryan is saying is simply not true. Nominal rate is 35. The effective real rate is significantly lower than that. Now, the second point is what these guys are going to do is lower taxes essentially for corporations that invest abroad. Yes, we want to bring jobs back to America. What they are doing is exactly the opposite. They are making it easier for corporations to go abroad and pay lower taxes than staying in the United States of America. So I strongly disagree with him on that principle. In order to get jobs, to companies to reinvest in America, among other things, what we have got to do is change disastrous trade policies, which make it easier for them to go to Mexico and China and hire low-wage workers. This tax policy will not help that process. It will likely hurt it.
In his cabinet meeting just a little while ago, the president spoke about other consequences of this legislation now passed by the Senate, now passed by the House. He's about to sign it into law. Listen to what he said about this. Listen to this.
When the individual mandate is being repealed, that means Obamacare is being repealed because they get their money from the individual mandate. So the individual mandate is being repealed. So in this bill, not only do we have massive tax cuts and tax reform, we have essentially repealed Obamacare.
So is the president right, Senator, that
No,
with the repeal of the
right.
individual mandate that was included in this tax legislation, is Obamacare, as we know it, for all practical purposes, dead?
No, of course it is not. But Obamacare, forget Obamacare, forget the American people. 13 million Americans will lose their health insurance as a result of the repeal of the individual mandate. Now, that people get really excited, isn't that a great thing, Wolf? My God. 13 million more Americans on top of the 28 million who have no health insurance are going to lose their health insurance. Let's really celebrate that. I mean, what kind of insanity is that? We are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. We pay twice as much per capita for health care as any other nation, and Trump is celebrating the fact that 13 more million Americans will not have any health insurance. And by the way, another disastrous aspect of this bill is that when younger people and healthier people are no longer in the universal pool, what all of the experts say is that health care premiums are going to go up significantly. So not only are 83% of the benefits, tax benefits, going to the top 1% at the end of 10 years, healthcare premiums are going up. That is one of the reasons why AARP, the largest senior group in America, has opposed this legislation.
Senator, a very related issue now. The deadline, as you know, to pass a spending bill is Friday, or else the government will have to shut down. It looks like it will be another short-term continuing resolution, as it's called. December 7th, that was the last CR, continuing resolution, that avoided a government shutdown. You were one of 14 votes against that one. Will you vote against this continuing resolution as well?
I sure will. Look.
Why?
How many hours do you have? Here's why. We have a situation today where 800,000 young people, dreamers, people who were raised in the United States, who are now at school, who are now working, who are now in the United States military, are on the verge of losing their legal status and will be subjected to deportation. Just a poll came out, I believe, yesterday, Quinnipiac poll. 77% of the American people, Democrats, Republicans, independents, understand that the right thing to do is to maintain the legal status of these young people and, in fact, move them toward citizenship. That's what 77% of the American people want. Republicans have been so busy trying to give huge tax breaks to billionaires and the wealthy, they haven't paid one iota of attention to this looming crisis. Second of all, we have the CHIP program. This is the health insurance program for children. For children. Has not been reauthorized in almost 3 months. There are states now running out of money. Children in this country, middle class, working class kids, are going to lose their health insurance. Furthermore, you got the community health center program, something that I've been very actively involved in expanding. 27 million low-income, working-class families get their health care through community health centers. That has not been refunded this fiscal year.
All right, Senator, let me interrupt because we're out of time. So basically, you're going to vote against it unless those, let's say, 3 issues and other issues are included, which apparently they won't be included, but there probably will be more than enough senators to vote in favor without that and deal with those other issues in January or down the road, the DACA program, the Dreamers,
they have got to be dealt with.
The CHIP program.
Look, maybe, I know this is a radical idea, but maybe the Republican leadership might want to worry about the needs of the working class and middle class of this country, not just their billionaire campaign contributors. So I will vote no unless those issues are dealt with.
Senator Sanders, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.